Welcome back to the Circular Chess Championship quarterfinals. I have a very exciting matchup for you today. 4th seed YuzuKi versus 5th seed TekVnv. These players faced off in the finals of the last day of qualifiers, where YuzuKi took the series by timeout. Now they're back facing off in round 1 of the championship tournament, where they will be playing a best of 4. Winner will play live in the semifinals next week. I'm also testing out a couple of highly requested features, a material counter and evaluation bar. The eval bar is mostly accurate, but it seems to miss checkmates quite a bit, so take it with a grain of salt. Anyways, with that being said, let's get right into the match. Alright, so YuzuKi starts off with white for the first game. He goes with a king's pawn opening, both players do. And now after YuzuKi pushes his queen's pawn, Tek pushes his king's pawn again. I think we saw this in their last match. I'm not sure exactly why Tek pushes the king's pawn first. Of course, the queen can defend the queen's pawn, but let's see. YuzuKi, of course, keeps pushing the queen's pawn, and Tek now still going for the king's pawn push. And now after another pawn push, Tek moves his knight in. The pawn keeps pushing. Tek doing the same. Both players now one move away from promotion, but Tek the only one defending. Now YuzuKi defends. Tek's queen comes in. Now instead of defending this pawn, it's defending the promotion square, and he's also just one knight move away from also defending this promotion square as well. YuzuKi decides to block. The computer apparently doesn't like this move too much. Now Tek attacks this knight. This one's under attack as well, but it's defended, of course. This bishop comes in, attacking this knight while still defending this one. The knight moves to block promotion. Now YuzuKi brings his knight out, clearly looking at castle. His knight falls. Castle does not happen. Instead of pushing a pawn, the computer really doesn't like this move. I'm not sure exactly why. This bishop comes in, putting the king in check. Of course, now YuzuKi's going to have to block somehow if he wants to keep castling rights. He does with just the pawn. The computer apparently really liking this move. Still black with the advantage. And now Tek finally pushing his queen's pawn. It's still not defended by anything, but at the very least, this gets the bishop into the game. Now YuzuKi brings his bishop to break this pin on the pawn, possibly to push and get an attack on the bishop. We'll see. Now this queen swings around. It's not quite attacking anything yet. However, it does, of course, allow for promotion. And this file might be pretty strong. If castles, the king will end up here, and then possibly just a couple moves away from some kind of checkmate. And now YuzuKi moves his pawn, and the computer really doesn't like it. Maybe after some kind of trade, this pawn not quite hanging, defended by the bishop. We'll see. Of course, promotion will happen at some point. It does happen right now. Apparently, that's not what the computer was afraid of. But now this knight kind of hangs. It would be a rook for knight trade. Actually, excuse me, it would be a rook for knight and bishop, which is a lot more appealing. So now this bishop falls. So Tek exchanged promotion for a bishop, it looks like. But now this trade I was just talking about appears to be happening. It does. And this bishop comes under attack too, so it has to move out of the way. Now this bishop finally comes in. Of course, this pawn move opened it up earlier. Now more pawn pushing. Of course, this knight is kind of tied down to this promotion, the queen defending it, so you can't really do too much about that. Now this knight moves out of the way. This will allow castling, and then this rook is on this file for this pawn to keep pushing. Of course, that's not the biggest concern because this queen's already on the center ring, but it can't hurt. This knight falls to the bishop. Now the queen will likely capture it. Yep. This puts some extra tension on this pawn. If neither of these pawns move up, you could see this bishop move come in. Also something worth considering, I just realized that this knight is pinned to the queen. The pawn does defend. Now this knight comes in, blocks this pawn from moving forward, and it will defend this promotion square. So now the queen can move out of the way, and then a knight for pawn trade cannot even happen. Castling happens, and the computer absolutely hates this move. I'm not sure. It might just be missing something. Of course, the bot is not quite as good as Stockfish, so there's certainly some moves that it will miss. This queen comes in, now putting another attack on this knight. It will allow for promotion. Promotion doesn't happen. It's this knight moving out of the way. This rook can come in. Another pawn push from Tek. The rook does slide in. Pawn keeps pushing. YuzuKi does the same. This knight captures it. It looks like it's going to be a trade, or a sacrifice, rather. The rook does capture, and now this bishop takes. This is just an exchange. The pawn captures, though. This allows Tek to just not go for this queen trade. If queen captures, this pawn can stay here unless Tek goes for the queen trade, and that's a lot safer. So we'll see if this comes back to bite YuzuKi. Tek, of course, does not go for the queen trade. He instead attacks this pawn, but that just allows, well, it does allow promotion, but it will lose a rook right after. The pawn is pinned. However, I'm not sure if Tek saw this. This is just a queen blunder, it looks like. It doesn't get seen. It was one of YuzuKi's two legal moves. Either move this king out of the way or just capture the queen. And so now Tek just gets to take a free pawn. And now this rook slides down out of danger. YuzuKi, of course, looking to promote at some point. Tek now castling. The computer doesn't like this move as it will allow YuzuKi to promote. I'm not sure if there's really anything that Tek could have done to stop it. But nevertheless, now YuzuKi promotes. Tek, of course, close to promotion, and he is going to try, but YuzuKi with 2 rooks on the center, it's going to be hard to break through that. The rook does come into block, and now Tek takes another free pawn, now attacking this knight. This rook slides back, which I believe just blunders a knight, but it does attack this pawn, which might be a worthy exchange. The knight falls, but the pawn doesn't. Instead, YuzuKi brings his queen to the center. This square is kind of dangerous for black, but nothing defending the queen quite yet. Tek finds another pawn, puts the king in check. There's again only one square that he can move to, and after he does so, this could be, he could go for perpetual. It seems like he doesn't actually. Wow, this check is a double attack on the king and rook. Of course, the bot thinking for some reason that this was just checkmate, I believe, but that's just simply not the case. Anyway, so after this rook captures, YuzuKi slides this rook in, now defending this square, I believe, getting his rook into the game. It's one of a few ways that he could have done it. Another check comes in. Now YuzuKi's going to be forced to block with the rook. This could be another perpetual if Tek wanted to, but again, I don't think it's going to happen. This knight move now, perhaps bringing another rook into the game. The king slides a little bit closer to safety. The same. Now, is this even, what's stopping this from being mate in 1? Is there anything? Oh, I see. Yep, the queen. But, let's see. So this move, I don't know if there's any way to stop this. Or I guess, yeah, you could just move the pawn. This move does happen. And yep, the pawn moves. This rook slides up to the 3rd rank. So if either of these knights move, this pawn will be hanging. And then if the rook takes, this will still be checkmate. Now this pawn moves, being a little bit safer. But now this knight moves. It does defend this pawn. So YuzuKi might not see that this pawn's hanging. He doesn't, but oh my, wow. This pawn move is a discovered attack on the queen that he set up a move before. Tek not seeing it. That's a massive blunder in this position. The entire reason Tek had a lead was because of this queen, and now it's gone. But Tek does find a fork, so this move, this knight move, although it blundered a queen, it was good in its own right because not only does it defend this pawn, attack this one, it also allows for a fork. So Tek at the very least will get something for this. The queen, of course, is moving. Then the rook falling. The knight falls to the queen after, and now the queen is locked down. It is on the central ring, which is good for it, but it's stuck here to prevent this pawn from promoting. And even if it moves, it can still promote because it's defended by the rook. Another rook coming in even. So rook slides to the 2nd rank. So now if Tek doesn't do anything, it will be still not great for YuzuKi. So Tek doesn't have to do anything about it. He instead just starts pushing another pawn. YuzuKi does the same. Now this capture would not be possible. Tek keeps pushing. Both players keep pushing. Just a pawn race. Now Tek will be the first to promote, which will do nothing other than force the queen to capture. Then if another promotion comes in, we'll see what happens. He does promote, queen captures, another promotion. Now Tek with a massive file, 3 rooks. The queen's forced out of the way. Now likely we'll see Tek block the promotion. He does. YuzuKi slides back. This is a double attack on these 2 rooks. The best move likely will be to bring this rook in. He doesn't. He instead captures this pawn. Of course, actually, he doesn't have to do anything about it. I missed the fact that this rook is defended, so he really doesn't have to do anything. So the pawn falls. However, I may have been right, but for the wrong reasons. This pawn is defended by this rook, something that I somehow missed, and Tek did as well. So he loses a rook for a pawn. Now this rook sliding up to attack the queen. I believe it does also attack this pawn. However, this pawn falls. Tek now attacking the queen again. This almost even allows a perpetual check from YuzuKi if you'd like. He is down just 1 point of material, which isn't too bad. Anyway, instead he slides his queen back, and so this pawn falls. The king now moving. I'm not sure if it had to. Actually, yeah, it almost certainly did have to. However, the square is defended. This rook, never mind, it's on the 2nd rank, not the 3rd. But that could be dangerous at some point. The king comes up. The rook slides all the way back over here. Now YuzuKi's rook attacking this pawn. The king slides over. I'm not sure, because this move is kind of scary, but the rook can just block and it's defended. So I'm not sure exactly the point of that move. Queen now sliding over 1. This does attack the pawn twice. Tek sees it, moves it up 2 squares. Still defended by the rook. Now the queen setting up a double attack. The bot doesn't like it. Perhaps this is one of the reasons. The rook slides in, now attacking the queen, getting control of the center. So now the queen slides up. It attacks this rook. Rook simply goes back to attacking the queen. Now the queen moving in, attacking once again. The king slides over again. I'm not so sure what the point of these moves are. Now this pawn hangs. Actually, it was hanging in 2 different ways. Okay, so now we see the point of Tek sliding his king over. He brings a knight in just to block any kind of back rank shenanigans. But now YuzuKi allows a rook trade, which, I don't know, it might be good for Tek. He doesn't go for it, though. Instead, just pushing a pawn. YuzuKi goes for the rook trade himself. Now the bot really liking white's position. I'm not sure exactly why, but that apparently wasn't the move to do it. Now, evaluation looking completely even after a pawn falls, but it goes right back. I don't know if I trust the eval bar here, but anyways, after the knight attacks the queen, it slides just out of the way. Attack with a check, YuzuKi moving the king out of the way. Another rook move with no check, and after a little bit of shuffling, Tek finds another check. This blunders the rook though. Of course, these rings are kind of hard to keep track of. Excuse me, these rings. So now, YuzuKi with a 6-point material advantage. Tek with a couple pawns left to his name. It's not over yet, but once again, these circular ranks really confusing the players. This does allow the knight to attack the queen at least, get it out of the way. Now after attack on the knight, it simply slides out of the way. Now this is a double attack. This will lose the knight. It's forced to block though, so it's not quite over. The king now moving, forcing black to move. Black does move, and now this will allow for some kind of, I'm not sure. So YuzuKi now not checking the king, but of course not stalemate, as there are plenty of moves that black can make. Black moves the king. This blunders a pawn, but YuzuKi doesn't take it, instead checking the king. After moving out of the way once more, now YuzuKi takes the pawn with check. King moves. Now Tek down to just a king, and YuzuKi will have to find a way to force mate with queen and king. I'm not sure if that's been done in circular chess yet. I believe it is possible to force. We see some shuffling going on. YuzuKi, I believe, gonna have to find a way to slowly get on this side of the king, then slowly push it into a corner, get the king in. Very similar to the standard one. However, still just some shuffling going on. He's not getting on the inside. He only has 50 moves to do it. Now finding a check on the king, simply moving over. YuzuKi is getting his king involved. The queen now on the right side of the king. More king moves. He just simply needs to take advantage. He needs to get his king in slowly. If he wants to force it, maybe this way, because he has the king trapped into, let's see, he's forced into this box. Of course, can't go on this diagonal either. So we'll have to find a way to bring his king in to somehow start to force the king in more. Of course, if the king was on this square, the king would be forced now to go to the next ring towards the center. Then it would just be rinse and repeat. The king's still shuffling. The queen now on this side. This would be a much faster way to do what I just explained. Now the king just has to get in on this side, and then he could rinse and repeat going this way instead. King keeps shuffling. The king does come in. He is doing what I explained. Now I think we need to see the king come up one more. He can't quite do that. Tek prevents it, but the queen checking. Now the king's forced back. King comes in. Now forced to move back once again. Both players with about a minute on the clock. This is going to happen fast. The king now trapped to just these 5 squares. Excuse me, I miscalculated. The king's allowed to come back in one. Now he can start running away over here. That's going to make this significantly harder for YuzuKi. He tries to rein it back in, and now the king forced to just this next square if the queen doesn't move. The king does move, so the king's gonna have to go here. Another king move. The king can run off this way or go back to this square. He does run off. Another check. King forced back one. And now I think we're gonna see a similar thing happen. I'm not sure if YuzuKi's gonna find it. He does. Okay, so the king now only has 4 squares he can go off to. Goes off to one of them. King comes in. This is not quite mate in one. King can, of course, run off there. He does find the check at least. The king does run off. This king comes in. Black king now all the way on the edge. We could see somehow maybe this check be very limiting. I'm not sure if that's the correct move. Let's see what he does. He does not find the check. Instead of just moving the king. Now I think this is one of the only winning moves. He doesn't find it. Instead, swinging all the way around. Now locking the king into just 3 squares. King moves back. Queen comes in, not delivering check, but of course just limited to this 1 square. After a king move, the queen now only allows 1 move from the king. This is very dangerous. And now the queen checking again. King moves over, and the king comes in. This is stalemate, unfortunately. YuzuKi, 27 seconds on the clock, doesn't manage to find a checkmate. Probably not too far away from the 50 move rule anyways, but I believe somehow, I'm not even sure, maybe this move, it would allow the king to get back here. I'm not sure. But anyways, that stalemate in game 1 puts the score at 0.5 to 0.5. Now either player is just going to have to win 2 games to take the match, 2.5 to 1/2. So now let's see if Tek can strike back with the win with the white pieces. Okay, so now in game 2, Tek goes for the king's pawn. YuzuKi does the same, and Tek, his signature move, keeps moving the king's pawn. YuzuKi now pushes this pawn. I don't see exactly why. Tek simply pushing his king's pawn again. Now this knight coming out. Again, this pawn, since it's the king's pawn, is not defended yet. Tek does defend it though, and attacks the knight at the same time. YuzuKi simply going for the knight for pawn trade. That was his plan with this move anyways, so I guess he's not too upset going for it. Now the queen's pawn starts to push. This pawn move does block this bishop from getting to the game super easily. Now we see the queen's pawn from Tek, another king's pawn push from YuzuKi, both pawns pushing, another pawn, now the queen's pawn being pushed from YuzuKi. Tek simply moving his queen's pawn again, more pawn pushes, and Tek is going to be the first to promote, but YuzuKi again going for the sacrifice. Tek doesn't want it quite yet, instead attacking the knight with his queen. The knight's forced to slide back. I'm not sure if it absolutely had to, but there's no way to get out of the queen's grasp here. However, he could have brought his queen in maybe. It is attacked by this bishop, so maybe not. But he could have brought it into the center maybe, at the very least. Knight for knight? Not quite, because of course both knights are defended. But instead of just giving up the knight and allowing the queen to the center, there's probably more that could have been done by YuzuKi. But anyways, the rook promotes the knight, not quite out of the game yet, but it doesn't move out of the way. YuzuKi instead just trying to promote. Of course, these knights block the rook from doing anything about this promotion quite yet. Now Tek moving this knight. Promotion does not quite happen yet. YuzuKi instead giving his own knight to safety. The queen now attacking the knight once again. Knight's forced to move out of the way. Now defending this promotion square though. Tek's bishop comes in. This does attack the queen if YuzuKi doesn't see it, and it is defended by his own queen. It appears that YuzuKi does in fact see it. Now the knight coming into block promotion. If this knight takes, the rook just captures back and it's still blocked. That is what happens. Now YuzuKi with another pawn push. This pawn is defended twice once again. But this knight move, now attacking this pawn, it can just move forward attacking this rook. That's not what happens though. So this pawn is hanging now. So it comes down, and now this promotion square being defended even if this rook moves. This bishop sliding in to defend this pawn, but not the promotion square. This pawn isn't hanging, but Tek takes it. This bishop's going to be able to capture back. It does. Now Tek brings his own bishop into the game. This is check. And now YuzuKi just simply blocking with his own bishop. The exchange happens. YuzuKi takes back with the queen, saving his castling rights. The queen comes into the center. This pins the queen to the king. So there's not a whole lot YuzuKi can do to prevent the queen trade, but he does push a pawn to block it. White's dark square bishop now coming in, attacking this pawn. The castle comes through, and the bot, for whatever reason, I feel like every single castle it is absolutely hated. But anyways, now Tek attacking the pawn with his queen. This pawn's also hanging. YuzuKi's queen also finding a double attack, this time on a rook and bishop. So the bishop just simply takes, but that leaves this rook undefended. At the very least, he can take another bishop for his trouble. Then this pawn still hangs. The rook does not fall though, instead taking the bishop, which the rook takes back. Now this pawn push, of course it was hanging, and Tek simply moving his knight, probably looking to castle, and YuzuKi pushing his rook's pawn. Can get that into the game at some point. Castling does happen, and for once the bot only kind of hates it. Now the rook's pawn push from YuzuKi. Tek moves his rook, getting ready to push it to the center. Queen attacks the rook, and now this rook is defended by White's queen. This rook, however, not sure what it's doing quite yet. It's not attacking the queen on its own open rank. YuzuKi's rook comes in. Now Tek moving his rook to attack this pawn. It's defended by this knight, but of course he also gets it out of the way of this queen. Another pawn push. This appears to be hanging, because I think this rook still guards this rank. Never mind. It's defended by this rook as well, but Tek planning for that. Attacks this pawn now twice. YuzuKi defends with his own rook. Now a pawn push, which brings the evaluation back down near even though Tek's up 7 points of material. And that is because, that's because this rook hangs. Nothing Tek can do about it. Now the material is very close to even. This knight coming in to attack. I'm not sure what's preventing this from being just mate in one. What am I missing here? I'm trying to find some sort of calculation, but I'm not seeing it. Is this just mate in one? Anyways, I guess it doesn't matter because YuzuKi doesn't make the move. Now Tek pushing once again. YuzuKi doing the same, pawns keep pushing, and now since this rook was under attack, it slides over to attack this queen, and it puts a little bit of pressure on this knight, I suppose. Queen slides all the way over here, now attacking this knight. It is defended by the queen, so the pawn just keeps pushing. Black now sliding to the central ring, and Tek now offering a queen trade, which will end in a promotion if he takes it. Of course, YuzuKi not doing that, sliding to once again attack the knight, and it also threatens, once again, I believe, mate in one. Tek simply promotes, which loses him a knight, but he gets a promotion for it. Now up 4 points of material. Now he brings his knight in. I think he might have just now seen the mate in one threat. This rook slides in. Tek now attacking the queen. YuzuKi's going to be forced to move his queen out of the way. He does. He slides it back, still putting pressure on this rook. Now the knight comes in to attack the queen. Queen simply slides back, and now I think maybe this knight move attacks the rook, attacks the queen. That's not what happens though. Okay, so this one works too. I was looking at this, but I didn't see that the queen defends. So now this rook slides out of the way to attack the knight, but this just loses a queen straight up. Rook can't even take back. So the queen comes down, And now instead, YuzuKi just trying to push another pawn. He does not have control over the central ring though. Tek strengthening his control of the center. This rook slides all the way to put 2 defenses on this pawn, but after it takes. Okay, so Tek will be forced to move this rook down, but he doesn't. Of course, the pawn can't even promote, so he has time. Now another rook sliding in. He's about to have 4 of these very important pieces near the center. Another pawn push. The rook does come in, but instead to the second ring. Pawn pushes again. Queen leaves the center. Now I'm not sure what Tek can do about this move. It does happen. Of course, Tek up 14 points of material, but he might lose some here. He simply takes, which is just what's going to end up being. He doesn't sacrifice, but oh my god, he finds a check instead, which will allow, let's see what ends up okay, so let's see what this will be. So up a pawn, now down a rook for pawn. This check now allows him to win. Yeah, he'll be up a full rook again. Instead, he slides his queen back, though. This isn't check. I guess, okay, that makes sense. He has to do that first, but this rook hangs now. So I'm not sure why he didn't just take this rook first, because even if promotion happens, he won't lose his own rook. So the rook does fall for free, but this pawn falls. Now black can promote, but he doesn't. Instead, probably going for a last second back rank checkmate, both players at around 30 seconds. This is certainly a time scramble, so I guess we can't look too far into these calculations. Now Tek has to defend against the back rank. He does, simply moving his pawn up. Now YuzuKi attacking this pawn. Queen comes in to attack the rook, but this pawn will likely fall, but it doesn't. Instead, moves his rook all the way over here, perhaps not wanting to lose defense of this pawn, but the queen slides in, attacking both, so the pawn can still not promote. Now, with just 22 seconds on the clock, he slides back. This does lose him a rook with check. Of course, the king being in check after this, so he can easily just slide back and take this pawn. Let's see if it happens. It does. Now the king in check. This pawn is going to fall. Queen just comes in. This is also check once again, so the king is forced to move. He can't even promote. Pawn falls. YuzuKi starts pushing again. The knight falls. YuzuKi just moving his pieces around. Another check. King comes forward. Now the queen attacking this knight and putting the king in not quite check. This pawn does block, but there can be a discovered check onto the king. Pawn moves forward once again. The knight falls now. This also comes with check. King slides up, still defending this pawn, but there's very little left to be done. This is a time scramble, though. Tek's gonna have to find a checkmate really soon if he wants to take the full point. He sacrifices the queen. King takes it, and he just starts promoting. Tek is gonna be the first to promote. Still has 11 seconds on his clock. Now getting his knight into the game. These likely all being pre-moves. You don't see a single second coming off of either player's clock. This pawn is guaranteed to fall now, but it doesn't happen quite yet. Just pushing a pawn. The king comes in, attacking this knight. The rook does not defend it. Instead, just pushing the pawn. Again, still 11 seconds. He has not lost a single second yet. These are all pre-moves. Now this pawn has a better chance of promoting, but this pawn keeps pushing. The king defends the pawn instead of attacking the rook. Probably the best play. Pawn about to promote. YuzuKi promotes first, and Tek, now 10 seconds on the clock, just promotes instead of taking this rook. And now YuzuKi takes this rook, and now there's nothing Tek can do to lose this game, but he still has to find a checkmate within 10 seconds. Now we're just going to see YuzuKi moving his king around while Tek promotes his pawns. That's exactly what's happening. Now Tek with 2 rooks starts trying to look for the ladder mate. It looks like it's about to come through. The king now stuck within these 2 ranks. Rook slides over, of course having to get into this starting zone before he can complete the ladder mate. The king forces to shuffle around a couple more times, and now it's all but over. Just 2 more moves have to come out, and it's checkmate. That's exactly what happens. Tek with the white pieces, only losing 1 second in that time scramble, manages to take down YuzuKi with white, bringing the score to 1.5 to 1/2 for Tek. And now game 3. If Tek can find another win, he'll win the match. All right, now here we are in game 3, and it looks like we're going to see the same openings from both these players. Tek still pushing the king's pawn. It's worked for him so far. YuzuKi also looking for a promotion. Tek now plays a little bit safer, pushing his queen's pawn early, not just simply going for promotion. But YuzuKi is looking for that promotion. Tek now pushing his queen's pawn instead of his king's pawn, it looks like. And now, 1 square away from promotion, Tek looks for the knight sacrifice like we've seen so many times. But the knight first attacked by the bishop, so the knight just simply blocks the promotion. This bishop comes in to attack this knight. Queen comes in to defend, and now YuzuKi just pushing his king's pawn. Tek's other knight coming in. Now YuzuKi bringing his knight out this way. I don't know if we've seen this move yet. I'm not sure the exact point behind it. It does have an advantage over this move in that he can still bring his queen out over this diagonal. Tek simply pushing. Now his queen comes under attack from YuzuKi's knight, but it looks like that's a blundered knight. And this also attacks the bishop. Actually, however, it's not a blundered knight because it's defended by this queen, so it looks like it's just gonna be a knight trade. That is what happens. Now the point of this original knight move showing through. This bishop comes out, defending this queen, and of course getting him closer to castling kingside if he wants to. This queen comes under attack from the bishop. Queen simply slides out of the way. Now very dangerously looking at this square, which is not quite checkmate, but very, very close. At the very least, it will lose a pawn. Now this knight attacking this pawn, it will have to be a sacrifice if he wants to do it right away. this bishop comes in to attack this queen, that checkmate is looking even more possible. I honestly don't know if there's anything that can be done to stop it now. Obviously, he could sacrifice the queen, but I don't know if he'll see this checkmate. The queen slides back, and is this mate in one? This square is defended. If the queen comes down here, there's nothing that can take it. And I believe it's just checkmate. Let's see if he does find it. And in quick fashion, only a handful of moves in this game, he finds checkmate very, very early and wins the series 2.5 to 1/2. Congratulations to Tek. He's our second semifinalist. Now, both semifinalists are waiting on the results of our 2 remaining quarterfinals matches to see their matchups. Both these semifinals will be streamed live. Of course, the remaining 2 quarterfinals matches will just be uploaded like this one. And anyways, with that being said, thanks for watching the second quarterfinals match, and I hope to see you in the next one.